There is a particular kind of pain that comes from waiting for someone who may never return. It is not loud pain. It is quiet, heavy, and constant. You wake up with it. You carry it through the day. You go to sleep with the same thought looping in your mind. What if she comes back? This hope feels comforting at first, but slowly it becomes a chain. Stoicism teaches that suffering is not caused by events themselves, but by the meaning we attach to them. And waiting in hopelessness is one of the most dangerous meanings we can create. The Stoics were clear about one thing. Anything outside your control should never become the center of your peace. Another person's feelings, decisions, or return are not within your control. Yet when you tie your emotional stability to her coming back, you hand over your power completely. You are no longer living your life, you are suspending it. Hope, when misunderstood, becomes emotional paralysis. You stop growing because growth would mean accepting reality. You stop moving forward because moving forward feels like betrayal of memories, of promises of what could have been. But Stoicism reminds us that clinging to the past is just another form of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear that this was the best you would ever have. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When your thoughts are constantly about her absence, your inner world becomes defined by lack. And a man who lives in lack cannot attract abundance. Not in love, not in purpose, not in peace. This is the hidden cost of hopeless waiting. It shrinks your inner world. Here is a Stoic truth most people resist. If she was meant to stay, she would be here. That does not mean she is evil or you were unworthy. It simply means reality has spoken. And Stoicism demands respect for reality above emotion. The moment you stop arguing with what is, your suffering begins to weaken. You might think that letting go means losing her forever. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. Letting go does not push people away. It removes desperation. And desperation is what destroys dignity. When your life revolves around whether she returns, your value becomes conditional. You wait for her decision to decide how you feel about yourself. That is not love. That is emotional dependency. Epictetus warned that when we desire things not in our control, we make ourselves slaves. Waiting for her return turns you into a servant of uncertainty. Every message notification controls your mood. Every silent day feels like punishment. You become reactive instead of grounded. And nothing is more unattractive to life or to love than a man who has abandoned his own center. Stoicism asks you to perform a brutal but freeing exercise. Remove her from the future you imagine. Not out of bitterness, but clarity. Imagine your life becoming meaningful, strong, and calm without her. This is not giving up. It is reclaiming authorship of your story, because when your happiness depends on one person, you have already lost yourself. The irony is powerful. When you stop waiting, you become lighter. When you release attachment, your presence changes. You speak differently. You walk differently. You think differently. And whether she comes back or not becomes secondary. This is where true power begins, not in control over others, but mastery over your own mind. A Stoic does not suppress pain. He understands it. The pain you feel is not proof that she was the one. It is proof that you invested deeply. And that capacity to invest, to feel, to commit is not a weakness. It is a strength that must now be redirected inward. Build discipline where longing once lived. Build purpose where hope once waited passively. If she never comes back, life does not end. A chapter ends. Stoicism teaches that endings are neutral events. We label them as tragedy or liberation. What you are feeling now is not hopelessness. It is the resistance before transformation. The moment you accept uncertainty, you stop bleeding internally. So watch this not to feel better temporarily, but to wake up. You do not need her return to become whole. You need self-command. And once you regain that, whether she returns or not, you will no longer be waiting. The moment you stop waiting for her return, something subtle but profound happens inside you. Your energy, which was scattered across memories, hopes, and imagined futures, begins to return to you. Stoicism teaches that where attention goes, life follows. When your attention is no longer trapped in the question, will she come back? It becomes available for something far more important, self-mastery. Waiting keeps you emotionally frozen. Discipline melts that ice. The Stoics believed that a man becomes powerful not when life gives him what he wants, but when he trains himself to be steady regardless of outcomes. This is the difference between emotional survival and emotional strength. When you stop checking your phone, replaying old conversations, or measuring your worth by her silence. You are not giving up, you are upgrading. Epictetus emphasized daily practice, not philosophy, as comfort. Stoicism is not about feeling calm while doing nothing. It is about acting correctly even when the heart resists. This is why structure becomes your ally. When you create routines, physical training, focused work, silence, reading, reflection, you reclaim the hours that longing once stole from you. Time stops being something you endure and becomes something you use. One of the hardest Stoic lessons is accepting that closure is optional. Most people believe they need an explanation, an apology, or one final conversation to move on. Stoicism calls this a trap. Closure that depends on another person is not closure at all, it is delayed dependency. True closure is an internal decision. I will no longer allow this to disturb my peace. No permission required. As discipline grows, your self-respect returns, and self-respect changes the way life responds to you. You stop broadcasting need. You stop negotiating your value. You become selective with your energy. This is not emotional coldness, it is emotional maturity. The Stoics taught that inner order creates outer respect, whether in relationships, work, or destiny itself. Stoicism reframes loss as training. The absence you feel is not punishment. It is resistance. And resistance builds strength. Just as the body grows by lifting weight, the mind grows by carrying reality without complaint. Every day you resist the urge to check, to imagine, to hope passively. You strengthen your ability to govern yourself. This is what the Stoics called prohairesis, the power of choice. Do not confuse numbness with peace. Stoic calm is not emptiness. It is clarity. You will still remember her. You may still feel waves of emotion, but they will pass through you instead of controlling you. You become the observer, not the prisoner. And this shift from reaction to observation is the foundation of freedom. When you stop waiting, you create space. Space for growth, space for new connections, space for opportunities that could never reach you while your heart was anchored to the past. Life cannot enter a closed room. Stoicism teaches openness without attachment, a rare but powerful state. This is why Stoic legends were unshakable, not because they felt less, but because they ruled themselves. They understood that the greatest revenge against loss is becoming whole again, not to prove anything to her, but to honor your own potential. In the end, waiting is passive suffering. Discipline is active healing. And once you choose discipline, you are no longer hoping life will change. You are changing yourself, and that changes everything. Many people misunderstand detachment. They think it means becoming cold, emotionless, or pretending that nothing mattered. Stoicism never taught emotional denial. It taught emotional command. Detachment is not about erasing her from your memory. It is about removing her from the steering wheel of your life. When you are attached, every thought pulls you backward. You measure your progress by her absence. You ask yourself if she would be proud, if she would notice, if she would regret leaving. This keeps you trapped in a silent dialogue with someone who is no longer present. Stoicism calls this unnecessary suffering, the kind we choose by refusing to release what no longer belongs to us. True detachment begins with a simple realization. Feelings are information, not instructions. Just because you miss her does not mean you should wait. Just because you feel lonely does not mean you should return to what broke you. A Stoic observes emotions like weather, real, powerful, but temporary. You do not argue with a storm. You prepare for it and let it pass. Marcus Aurelius warned against living as if something absent is essential for happiness. The moment you believe peace requires her return, you place your well-being outside yourself. Detachment pulls it back. It says, I will feel, but I will not be ruled. This is not suppression. It is sovereignty. There is a quiet confidence that emerges when you detach. You stop explaining yourself. You stop justifying your silence. You stop hoping to be understood by someone who chose not to stay. This silence is not punishment, it is dignity. Stoicism teaches that dignity is preserved by restraint, not by emotional displays meant to win validation. Detachment also dissolves fantasy. Often, what you miss is not who she was, but who you imagined she could be. The future you built in your mind felt real, so losing it feels like losing a person. Stoicism cuts through this illusion by grounding you in facts, not projections. Facts are neutral. They hurt less than imagined possibilities. When you detach, you begin to see clearly. You recognize patterns you ignored. You see where you compromised yourself. You see where love turned into tolerance and tolerance into self-abandonment. This clarity is painful at first, but it is liberating. Pain with truth heals faster than comfort built on illusion. Another Stoic principle comes alive here. Amor fati, love of fate. This does not mean liking what happened. It means accepting that this event is now part of your path, not as a curse but as shaping force. Detachment allows you to stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What does this demand of me now?" Strength grows in that question, because now your energy moves forward. You invest in skills, health, discipline, and purpose not as distractions but as alignment. Your identity expands beyond the role of someone who was left. You become someone who endured, learned, and refined himself.